Center.
The library writing.
So first, as you can see right here, we have a lovely new broadside. The art is by Kevin Goodrich, and then it's got 2 featured poems, Holding Hands by Brittany McDonald, and Just a Few Concerns by Jeannie Roller. I don't see Kevin, but is Jeannie here anywhere?
I don't see her.
Okay, we need to make sure she gets her copy. Okay, so next Helicon West is going to be on April 24th, and it's going to feature the winners from Scribendi. Come on in, everybody. And it'll be the winners from Scribendi, which is USU's creative writing contest. So, and instead of being here, it's going to be on campus at the Utah State Library, and it's in room 101. So don't forget, we want to see your faces there. And the clipboard for open mic is over on that table. Make sure you sign up. And also make sure you put your email and whether or not you want to be interviewed by Jessie afterwards. She's working on a really cool project. So, without further ado, I'll start introducing Poetry at 3, which is the featured reading for tonight. Just FYI, their anthology is available for purchase in the back. They compile one every single year, and it's always full of great poems. So this one, it's $5, and there are actually a few copies of volumes 7 and 2 that are also for sale for $2. But I have it under authority that if you buy the latest one, they might throw in one of the old copies for free.
Yay.
So, and also the poets will sign your copy too. So that's also working. So when Star told me that I was going to be emceeing, I kind of thought it would be fun to share a brief history of Poetry at 3 because I don't know how they got started. I know that they're awesome, and I figured most of you probably don't really know how they got started either. So she was nice enough to type up a little story for me, and I'll just give you kind of a brief overview. But the beginnings started in 1993 when Star was going to school at Utah State. She and some of her fellow students started meeting after Anne Schrifter's poetry class, and they met off and on throughout Star's graduate and undergraduate career. And then in 1996, Star, Shannon Ballard, and others from Ken Brewer's grad poetry class started meeting. And then in 2000 is when they started to meet weekly, and they pretty much always met at 3 o'clock, which is a hint of how they got meeting. But I think it's awesome because poetry at 3, it has this beautiful ring to it. I don't know, it was fate. But in 2001 is when they had their first official reading. 2002 was when they published their first anthology, and they called it Poetry at 3. And it was dedicated to Adrienne Poetero. Did I say that right? She was a USU poetry student who died of leukemia. And then, ever since 2000, the group's been meeting weekly. They used to take a break during summers, but it turns out they don't anymore. It's just, I'm sure, it's just too awesome to even miss. So, and they meet, this I thought was interesting, they meet for exactly an hour. No matter how many people are in their group, even if they've got like 9 people, they still stick to that hour. And I think that's cool. It's hard to stick to just an hour. And they each bring one poem and they read it, and then they get feedback from their fellow group members. Sometimes they'll bring back poems and keep revising. And then April is when they always revise work and start working on their anthology, and then they read here at Helicon. So they've done readings in Pocatello, in Salt Lake City, at the USU Library, at Y Sound, and every April for the last 14 years they've read at Helicon West. And I think, so I'm a graduate from Utah State in the creative writing program, but I think there's 2 lessons we can learn from Poetry at 3 about the writing life that I think is actually really significant. So one is consistency. They meet every single week, like, without fail. And I think that's really important. And being a writer is consistency. You have to always just keep writing no matter what. And 2 is they've formed their own writing community. And I think that is vital to writing. So I think we'll hear consistency and community in the quality of their writing. tonight, and I'm really excited to hear it. So, without further ado, Poetry at 3.
Welcome, everyone. Is that working? National Poetry Month, so you all should be reading poetry, so I want to promote that. My name is Ann Schiffer. I've been a member of Poetry at 3, I think, since about its inception. So almost everything that Anna said about Poetry 3 is, almost everything is true. So I'll begin, and I found myself recently writing poems in response to other poets, and since Anna pointed to things that are nice things to do to support your writing, one thing you do is write in response to someone else, sometimes writing in the style of that poet, or writing in response to a theme. So the first poem I'm going to read is in response to Marie Ponset, who is now 94, I think, unless she's turned 95. And she's still writing, as far as I know, if she hasn't died since I was living in New York Times. And I'll read you the short poem by her, first of all, so you can kind of see how mine is a spin-off from that poem. Mine is a spin-off both in theme and style. Style, however, I've kind of compressed many of the techniques she uses over the course of her poetry, so you won't see all of those in the first poem that I read by her, but you will see thematic echoes, I think. And I chose to read this poem first because you don't need to understand it, and people aren't really settled at the beginning of the reading, and it just has a lot of neat sounds, and that's kind of characteristic of Marie Ponset. Okay. So I'll read her poem first. It's very short, Out of Water. A new embroidery of flowers, canary color, dots the grass, already dotty with aster white and clover. I warn they won't last out of water. The children's pick some anyway. In or out of water, children don't last either. I watch them as they pick, still free of what's next and what was yesterday. They pick today. For Mary Ponset at 94. Your dimpled syntax daunts, its teetering tickles, repetends compel points of punctuation, a raunchy humor, a dotty delight, like children plucking daisies wild grown as they dance the graveyard. There wilt a wee tumble, a mistrial. Each step a seeming misstep. You turn a deft adaptation. Spinning, it comes right, an alliterative twirling. Your winsome rhythms chime, percussive rhymes. You make the terminal tolerable. So I hope you could enjoy the sounds, if not the sense. So it's kind of an echo of her theme of the dance macabre, children dancing on the graveyard. And this one is dedicated to my husband, Jim, and it's called My Edible Husband. Very different There he is. Stand up afterwards. He's also timing me, so I don't go over time, and I'm told not to talk in excess of the poem. So I'll try not to. You are the stars dipped in licorice, the buttery dawn melting our curtains. Waking, you are lemon zest, and sparklers still in the box. Afternoon, the custard on cake, the calm on our windowsill, the quiet under rocks. You nap like a loaf of bread with a cat purring inside. You are my wine, my capers. Yes, you are my mineral sparkle, pleasing palate and plate. You are the accent, the inmost of water. Self-luminous, you are the salt. Okay. Okay. This one is also in response to another poet's poem. I guess I won't read the poem because I only have 6 minutes. I'd rather fill things up with little idle comments. So. And this has a Latin beginning because it's the name of a plant, the desert marigold, and it's about a moth that has evolved to match the flower over millennia. This has occurred, so both are yellow and they look very similar, the flower and the moth. A response, Schinia heniana, the desert marigold moth. A response to Amy Gersler's advice from a caterpillar. Advice from a caterpillar. Said that kind of weird. Transform yourself, move on, be better than the rest. Self-invention is everything. Self-reinvention is everything. That's what they say. But I love my insect routine. Rolling up in petals from my own desert marigold, hiding myself, wrapped in the sulfur yellow of my food. Smoldering on and on, I wait as fossil water waits in a sandstone aquifer. Secretly it creeps, wiggling between grains of sand, sneaking down and around for 1,000 years until it weeps from a red rock face in tiny beads. Just so I wait for my wings to bloom. See me on my marigold's radiant disk of ray flowers, my sun deck. After millennia, I match my flower like pollen in a bowl of saffron. That's evolution for you kids. And the last one is Nativity for 2013. Every solstice I try to write a poem, and this is a solstice poem, although it's called Nativity. But I guessed I'm a pagan. And my neighbor built a skating ramp, and I was real worried about it. I thought, oh, good Lord, that's going to make a lot of noise. But fortunately, it only lasted one summer. And he chopped it up and built a hen house. This is true. So. Which was good. Nativity for 2013. My neighbor chopped his skateboard ramp in half, whacked together a hen house, squeezed an old crate inside. Winter, sub-zero dark, the hen house glows orange from a heating lamp, jerry-rigged in its rafters. All of the darkness leans into its weird radiance, and the black hen inside, nesting on a solitary egg, her own white planet. Beneath her petticoat, it has no face, no little feet. So much of the story missing, yet the hen has no questions. No guiding star, no horns from heaven, only the crackle of freezing and her self-consoling cluck. All of her meaning right here in a makeshift manger, leaky with starlight, where she looks so lonely, but isn't.
I'm Brock. I'm the highbrow poet of the group. I try to keep our subject matter from just totally floating down the gutter. And so my first poem is about warts. And it's all true except maybe for some of the last stanza. The wart doctor makes a house call. It started on the right top of my left second toe. A callus from rubbing Biggie, I thought at first, but then Biggie got one too. Verruca vulgaris grew bigger, harder, and when one appeared on a third toe, what had been painless, not even particularly unsightly, became fleshy disintegration, gnashing pain. Every week they freeze the invaders with bursts of liquid nitrogen, create a blister of blood between wart and underlying tissue, hope one day to reach an uninfected layer. A few days of not incidental pain, a week or two of waiting, and then scalpel or eager fingernail pops the now dried blister, and voila, one layer gone. The doctor broke his thumb skiing, so he operates with blade between index and middle, cleaving bad from good without spilling a drop. It's all true. I'm so impressed, I ask him home, and he takes his blade to my habits, my marriage, my self-esteem, till all that's left is right, half bodies trying fruitlessly to mate, half mind hopelessly made up. This next one is from a prompt from one of my students in teaching writing a couple years ago. I think the prompt was something like, put yourself in the perspective of an inanimate object. So I chose snow, and it came out pretty much done, which is really rare. Snow, my infinite pieces sift into everywhere, soften rough angles, smooth ditches, dimples, divots. My shape, the shape of everything, but softer, rounded, medicated. If you were dead, I would kiss your body with one flake, then another, cool you to my temperature, make the replica of you less and less like you until you're just me. This next one is about playing guitar. I realized this almost exactly 50 years ago, like right now, I got my first guitar because it was the Beatles, the spring of the Beatles, and every kid of my generation did the same thing. So I've been playing for a long time, and I'm okay, but I'm not great, but I've played with people who are great. And usually when that happens, I play rhythm, and if you know about that, I play 3 chords for maybe 10 minutes, and it seems really dull to some people, but this is explaining why it's not dull. Playing rhythm guitar. I play 3 chords over and over, A minor, B minor, C, while Steph solos with authority, each note crisp, distinct, each phrase complete but part of larger movements, melodies growing from pieces of others, rhythms building to a crowd goes wild intensity, on whipping post and Babe I'm Gonna Leave You, as lyrical and energized as Dwayne or Jimmy, though it's just the 2 of us in Steph's living room. I hold the hat. When Steph frees the rabbit, I alone see the trick. This last one is an adolescent, or I won't say it's an adolescent poem. It's a poem with adolescent energy, I suppose. That is, it's dripping with sarcasm. I guess I had to say that so that people didn't totally misread it. It's called Little Kindnesses. Holding the door so I have to break step, charge, catch it. Asking me how I am so I get to think again about my cancer. Wishing me a nice day when you want all my kind to shit ourselves dead. Stopping to let the undeserving butt in line while 38 wait behind you. Sending tacky Christmas cards, reply requested. Saying have a nice day when the day has sucked and the night isn't looking so good either. Cooing over my kid when you hate anyone smarter than you. Calling me sir, congratulating me for making the hike across campus. Giving me a courtesy call in case I changed my mind about that policy, wishing for God to bless me when he didn't waste much blessing on you.
Of course, I have to follow that. Thank you, Brock. Highbrow. All right. Wow, look at all the people. How many of you are here for the first time ever? Hands up. Don't be shy.
Good job.
Whoa. Whoa. Give them a hand. And they will be back. Fantastic. So I'm Susan Peshti-Strobel. I'm also in the book, and as always, I credit the fantastic group Poetry at 3 with the things that I write, and some might call them poems. I'm going to just pitch. I really don't have a lot of wisdom to write, how to write poetry, because I'm not so sure. You see. They're not laughing. Okay, so in any case, you're going to, if you purchase the book, first off, of course, the legendary Poetry at 3, but it's also an historical piece of ephemera. It has a little slip inside. It's called the errata. Your grandparents might remember what those were. You'll see. Buy the book, read. It's not a bookmark. All right.
It can be both. It can serve 2 purposes.
It's a multi-purpose piece of paper. Star knows everything. Everything we know learned from a star. That is so true. All right, so I'm going to read two of my poems that are featured in the newest, absolutely gorgeous book. In fact, it's such a such a self-contained book that even the art comes from one of our members. Hopefully he's going to own up to it. Where are you?
Right
No,
there.
you are. It's not like I'm pointing him out to you. Okay. All right, thank you, Phil. Fabulous original art. So, first I would like to read a prose poem that, even though I promised that I know nothing about poetry, but sometimes you feel like for so many decades, some of us, you just can't write about your family until one day you can. It's not about my son. It's called Shift. She picks the shallow pool with the warm water, lowers her body like a cat, slowly, suspecting. She pokes her chin high, grabs my hands. I start wading. To keep her body afloat, I plod fast. We weave among the after-school, after-shift splashers, reel around Marcos and polos, duck from beach balls. She says faster, and I'm figurehead without the proud breasts, though at 16 I have hopes. My thighs slice the heat of water, and I hope her lips won't touch what's surely half piss. But we don't think of that now. We think of her body, her bones, her posture, all going to hell, hardly 40, always tired, popping handfuls of pills for breakfast, and she says, faster, I'm sinking, and I say, move your legs, mother, please, froggy kick, you must. And she says, I can't, you know I can't. You and your father just don't listen. And I am a torpedo now. And she screams, you kicked me, there. And I stop. Eyes whip towards us. Mouths curve down or into O's. She's in my arms, shaped like silence. This other poem is also in the book. Have I told you about the book? Okay. And this is based on an actual event again. I was driving, we had a detour above campus to the east, and there are these little girls instantly. There's a detour, they just pop up with their little lemonade stands. And it's kind of inspired this poem. Lemonade stand bargain. Not by a main thoroughfare, but just around the corner, a yellow Little Tikes table, one little girl, a sign, lemonade, 10 cents. Her eyes will the occasional driver to stop and purchase a good bargain. The sun beats down on her hoods, her auburn locks, and she steels herself to win without drawing under high noon. Glittering dimes buy a dream of ballerina shoes, pink Cadillac, pearl white picket fence, law degree, Chanel suit, Jackie O sunglasses. For her, lemonade comes with a booby prize. Broken ribs, withdrawal symptoms, collection, eviction, body bag. My dime clings in her plastic Cinderella plate, joining others under her broad smile, and the glint from the pink dollar store sunglasses shaped like hearts not yet broken. And now for some serious stuff. All right, this poem is long. I hardly ever write long poems because you hear we only have an hour to look at poems. But I wrote it a while back. I have shown it to the group and they gave me fantastic advice. That doesn't mean the poem is what it should be, because it's up to me in the end, right? That could be a good advice, right? So, when it comes to fairy tales, and then once, and only once, there was a time upon which, but not another, there was a man, for the time being a poor man, with children up the wazoo, a wazoo filled indeed like a chimney with smoke and sausages, stuck for a time getting smoked, and everlasting, but he was a man nonetheless, with a wazoo chock full of children, spilling from a shoe, some tall, some small, mostly snotty, almost all potty trained, some with tears in eyes, some with tears under downy chin, 12 in all, though sometimes felt like they were more, depending on who won the single bean in search and rescue throughout the house, and more search and rescue up the chimney, of course, and the man said enough. Married the first woman, mild blonde, long hair whipping in the wind, who lived in a tower and drove a red car with the license plate, Huts for you. And they got married, of course, and she moved in with all of her 7 short minors, and they lived, and lived some more ever after, taught the children to never open the door to an apple peddler or an IRS auditor, and when the time came, sent all the children up the beanstalk or off to college, incurring national debt up the wazoo. Good old wazoo. Once upon a time, when cuts to their own budget bled down the chimney of the not-so-gingerbread house of this one man and none other, who died, of course, of massive heart attack. A failure on many levels, leaving the hot wife behind with the national debt up the wazoo, which did not stop the children from having their own wazoo filled with children up to here, a failure to think this through just once or ever after. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Phil Parisi.
I feel,
Did you ever feel that the natural world is disappearing slowly? Wait for me, world. I'm coming to visit you. Wait, palm trees and low-hanging fruit. Wait, Glacier National and Yosemite. I'm in line up to Chicago, waiting my turn at the gate. Songbirds, keep singing a little while longer until I get there. Wait for me, spring. I've put in my order for heirloom tomatoes, though they bruise easily like kisses in the wind. I'm here waiting for you, so please don't close the door. I have a lifetime pass that I haven't used. So please, ocean, keep rolling. Whales, keep leaping. Landscapes, keep your green and woven-colored mantle of gems. Do not abdicate your throne before I get there to bow at your feet, your knight and faithful servant to the death. The title of that was To Die For. Now, for you history buffs out there, don't take me to task on this one. This is called Materials, a sort of timeline. Stone came first, then wood married stone and crushed bone. Copper married tin and begot bronze. Pearl, amber, jade adorned them. Unbending iron fought over silver and gold, then took command. Lead poured out its soft heart to fill the cracks, and mercury sent a heavier message rising to the top, then playing within the play, sank into the king's ear. Steel's hardened heart bragged a hard-cutting edge, but was overcome by aluminum that conquered rust, outsparkled silver, and flew above earth and ocean. Titanium then ascended higher than the rest, more flexible and strong. Next came carbon fiber, interloper with greatest tensile strength, chuckling to prominence, overcoming what went before. But underlying all, the winner is petroleum, black gold, burning everything. Okay. We often take a lot of things for granted that we see every day and that are a part of us every day. This one is called Household. How can the house do it without folding up and collapsing on itself, taking everything with it? The king bed hewed from tall timbers, sofas that take 4 weightlifters to move, and the hefty refrigerators with 4 doors stuffed with leftovers and moldy neglect. The house holds the heft of the big iron desk cluttered with unsettled affairs and making just a slight sag in the floor, and the bookcase is packed 3 rows deep with heavy reading. In the cupboards, it holds the stacked plates and the platters, even the cowering odd ones collected by mothers from soapboxes, their teeth chattering in fear of yard sales. How can the house stand it? How much can it take? It supports soggy blankets on its shoulders, its rafters clad in armor rebuff the rain of arrows, swords flashing and clouds rattling their war shields, but the house refuses to surrender. And in the morning, when the folded pages of the world of trouble, the torn victims and ragged nations begging for mercy and justice, slap the front door in the face, what does the house do? It takes them all in every day and stores them in the closets of its memory with nothing but a creak. Yes, the house is miraculously strong. In the darkness, it labors quietly in gales, holding safely the hearts that lie beating and skipping, while in the next room, toy train runs wild circles all sleepless night. Worrywart. Okay, I usually write a to-do list every morning so that I don't forget what I have to do, little things. But one day I realized that I didn't write down the most important things. All the things I want to do today, cram it all in, fill the dawn's promise of eternity. Stand up from my wheelchair and walk around the world, speak 2,000 useful words in 100 languages. I want to walk with the people and talk about art and poetry on the sidewalk cafes of the 4 corners of the universe, or just meeting is enough. I want to take up my paintbrush and sketch all the landscapes, both visible and invisible, to be a man of steel, to save the world from itself, take the land down from the cross, roll back the stone of its burial. I want to make the clear sky my prayer tent, join the ranks of the master gardeners, get out of my iron lung and sing all the voices of Beethoven's Ninth. To do all these things right now because something is threatening the Valley of the Flowers.
We have 2 seats up front, as I know there are 2
There are
people
2
for
seats up front.
A third one that I have to
Everybody's tired.
If Phil's painting, of course, is on the front cover, but the person that designed it. And also to piggyback on Susan's comment about people here for the first time, how many of you are here for extra credit?
Yeah!
The majority of you, if you're my student, hey guys. Great presentations today. I'm going to read 4 poems. The first is called Bull Ride, and I've written bulls a number of times. Really? Bull Ride. Boot in place, pressure on the sole, other foot a bit more free, hand cinched. In the stanchion, pull up with your right hand. Test the rope with your left, slap the fence. Boots stirruped, pressure on the sole, breathe deep. Out there around the ring are people come here to this. Shit smell, your alkaline symmetry against the animal. Waiting to watch something happen. Accidents mostly, horns through flesh, an escaped animal, clown, run down. Breathe deep, slap the fence, slap your lashed hand. You won't feel a thing. Underneath you, an animal butts and kicks. He has been locked up for most of his life, well-fed but unloved. Underneath you, an animal is quivering to get out into the ring, to buck mostly, to throw himself into spiraled agony, to twist, to give them what they want. My next poem, it comes from a painting of Paul Klee. He was a German artist, and I recommend just Googling him because he's incredible. And the poem that inspired, or the painting that inspired this poem was one of the dancers. And but the caveat to this is that at my parents' place, they have put a fifth wheel out by the garage for all the non-Mormon kids. When so for Christmas and family reunion, when the non-Mormons kids go. And my brother and his husband have called it Queen Mary. That's the lovingly called it Queen Mary. So, and it's the coolest place to hang out. And all like the Mormon kids they like drift towards it. They love to come hang out at Queen Mary because there's bad shit going down there. Kind of cool shit. So this poem is called Clee. I know they are yards away when I uncork the whiskey. They won't come into the trailer. In the trailer alone, I uncork the whiskey. They hover. They are defined loosely, but more specifically, the Mormons of the family, mostly dad and mom. I uncork the whiskey and chug. After, I am awake for hours, thinking of Paul Klee's dancer. She spun into smears, I imagine. When it was time to paint, Klee slid his chair up to the canvas, whiskey at 2 fingers, waiting. More red, use more red, use more. And suddenly the dancer twirls around and round into smudge and perfect white. I once believed, I understood this blend into something grander, this foreseeable eternity. The dancer twirls me into sleep, or the whiskey, or the deep quiet huddled inside. Klee started by drawing lines. That made sense. The rest would come. Third poem is called After Looking at the Sun. And that's important. After looking at the sun is important. Sun, my mother said, you should never. Why? That hard candy word, indulgently difficult, because it will hurt your eyes. Why? Again, my tongue refuses to quit tasting this language. Looking up, eyes closed, I drew my own circle, made it kind and even more yellow. I let the word live in my farthest back tooth, where it would be safe with all the other words I was hiding. And my last poem is a poem that I've been working on for probably 3 years, and fucking can't seem to get it right. And, I thought if I read it out loud that, I haven't read it out loud, I thought if I read it out loud that maybe I would get some insight to it. It's called A Summer Burial. And it's kind of prosy. It's one of my more prosy poems. In her journal, my mother writes about the horse dying. She says, too much now to fill in the gaps, and I think she means pain, but more likely, she means time. The horse at 33, and a horse at 33, that's a fucking old horse, but the horse at 33 was old. Through last winter, a change took place in her body, bones pushed through, ballooning her skin, her hide drawing close, hair sloughed off with each rub against fence posts. She ate well. She maintained her bitchy superiority with the 3 others. At times, she could be seen standing alongside the miniature, the one called Sweetie, mocking, with just her head. The other horse's small size. She nipped at any hand come close to her halter or comb or feed. On her side, she spent most of spring, the front few days of summer. Then one morning, she picked her spot, lay down, died. The hummingbirds or coyotes ate out her eyes. Other animals got to the soft tissue. The words spread through calls, texts, emails. People were alerted. The end of the era, they said. Never be another, they said. The whole shooting match, meaning small farms, I guess, is done, and more done, over. And why they talked, And while they talked, tobacco clawed through a rare frost, through bones of other deaths, deep into dark earth, she was rolled in, quietly, quickly. No one looked up. Had they? My grandmother's face at the window would have stopped them all. The matriarch watching another meet her end. The face, full of soft remorse and ache, watched long after the dirt swallowed the horse, long after conversations hung themselves on forecasts and predictions, long after everyone had their say. The matriarch watched and watched, coming to conclusions, I'm sure, about things, just things, those that dotted our lives, and how, when those things disappeared, the hardest part of remembering began. Thanks.
I'm Shannon Ballum. I'm going to read 5 poems tonight. The first 4 are all about the death of my brother. My brother, who's 24 years old, died last July 7th. His name was Dylan Alexander Thomas. This is the very first poem I was able to write after my brother died. As I said, he died on July 7th. This is the first poem that spilled out on July 22nd, 2013. I was responsible for writing my little brother's obituary. I carried around a bag with pictures and notebooks and just all the information that I had to have to write this obituary. I called it the death bag. The first poem after July 22nd, 2013. I'm digging into the death bag, I'm doing it, writing with a mortuary pen, I'm facing it, I have to, even if all I can say is, the zip line in Hawaii. How did I do it? Climb to the top of the platform, the one that looked like gallows, 2 lifelines dangling their glinting buckles. I climbed, I was fastened, all my equipment double-checked. I fixed my eyes to the point, 1,800 feet away, the other side. I leaned into emptiness, the abyss. Absence makes sense. Absence miss my heart with your target. Oh, my little brother, I flew above trees, all those hungry teeth. I flew over wildflowers, their alarming, unfamiliar faces. I flew towards a place I could plant my feet, and I made it, God damn it. I was brave and I flew. This next poem is called Cremains. And that's this new word that they use to describe, or maybe it's not new, but if you cremate someone, it's a combination of the word cremation and remains. Cremains. A slow slide into the oven, I will imagine. A cold structure ready to burn. A coldness drawn to the oven. A cold body drawn to the fire. A cold, naked boy rolled toward the oven. Toward the oven, a naked boy rolled by his own volition. There is no misery in this. I refuse it. There will not be sadness in my naked brother entering the chamber, the white and blue hot burn where his flesh melts from bone. No, no misery. You, my baby brother, are getting new clothes, and for this glory your skin must disintegrate. Your skeleton must become a continuous, bristling flame. I'm 13 years older than my brother. Again, his name is Dylan, the baby who was not mine. Dylan, Dylan, in my dreams, you are a toddler again. When you were born, I was 13. I loved you, your razor nails, misshapen head, how you changed so fast, became mischievous, mysterious, chubby, so irresistible that all the girls on my volleyball team in junior high stopped, stunned by your smile, your big cheeks. They needed to kiss you, touch you, pinch you, giggle. We squealed in joy as we held you aloft like the prize we would never win. We held you high in the air of the gym, tennis shoes squeaking, bright lights shining down on the gloss, sweet young sweat, everything good, everything beginning its life. The smell, you aloft, smiling, the youngest, held above everything, a little silver spittle on your pink, pink lips, deserving it, this glory, my prize. You who made the other girls for once love me, you made me important. Later, in the dark, I fed you, your suck sweet on the artificial nipple. And then you staggered away in your blue pajamas into the bright hallway light, luminous, you walking away. I see you walking away from me forever, my beauty, my golden trophy. I wouldn't have survived the death of my brother without my friends. Your family, when something like this happens, everybody's kind of scattered out like a constellation spinning wildly. And so I was very lucky to have my friends, many of whom are in this room and many are in our poetry group. This is for one of my friends who helped me. And this was 3 days after his death, out the spring, 3 days after. I arranged myself on these rocks to watch the water surge from dark earth into sunlight. To spare you, I marble myself into a statue. The dippers charmingly bob on the rocks for us. To spare you, I stare at them, make my eyes wide and blank. No iris, no pupil, my tears just little pricks of diamonds. When was it we saw here the feral sheep, one of the lost in the rollover crash? Under the outcropping she pretended to be a gray boulder. To soothe me you speak, your voice, the water bubbling bright white noise into my brain. To soothe me you speak because my brother is dead. The sheep, how does she survive the downside up crush? Open her eyes in the litter of blood-stained bodies. How did she ride her dizzy fleece and flee through the bright portal into brutal hills? Oh, through what awful darkness does this water travel? The monkey flowers stare at me, tremble yellow lips that seem skin flecked with blood. Into sobbing I melt. You catch me, you hold me, my brother is dead. The harder I cry, the closer you pull me. Why do you harbor me, my slim, my damaged spirit? You hold so tight I can hardly breathe, oh thank you, crush me to you. I can't be the sheep, cold stone. Protect me from savage wilderness. Don't let me wander alone. My final poem was written for my last birthday, which was my 38th birthday, 3 months after my brother died. The 38th birthday. My face, my trail have begun to disappear. Am I real? I close my eyes, drag my life, heavy tail through another dark portal. I understand falling, how it feels to be a white fountain with no beginning, a continuous subtraction. But on my birthday, didn't I vow to shed losses, become vaster? I awake in a dark and snowy canyon, the sky a nest of bristled stars. I am not cold. My heart beats strong. I am not afraid. In a new body I smolder, my eyes keen and animal, adjusting to the dark. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ben Gunsberg, and I'm sort of the new guy on the book. And there's I guess there's a hazing ritual that goes along. They ask you to read after Shannon. So, yes, that's what I have to do. And it's great to have this kind of crowd. It's wonderful. And thank you guys for inviting me to be part of this. It's sort of like a mosh pit. Feel free to crowd surf as the poem is being read. This one's called Insomnia Night 3. Behind windows facing east, I wait for light to free the neighborhood, for leaves to flare radish bright and tremble over pipeline traffic. I gave up on sleep and sleep's advice. Breathe deep, notice toes, now feet, ankles, shins, and so forth, until arriving at the crown, where they say the spirit hatches, escapes human form like a slick, translucent worm. I tried to use my mind before halcyon and Ambien, because I feared those suicide stories, because who really knows what one might do in the wake of a wake, what one might do when one tablet fails to dissipate oneself. One repeats, one, until one enormous immemorial goodnight. Breathe out, part lips, slight smile a Buddhist once advised. Enjoy this brief, but the problem is performance. Like watching myself trying to balance a full wine glass on my chest. And if we lose the house, savings gone. Sorry, kid. Price of walls went up. Sorry, hun, can't afford that mold removed. You are still as a mountain, says the sage of sleep, soaking in his warm, best-selling fountain. Now I sit diligent as a bookmark, staring down dish rack, mixing bowl, steel pot I turned beneath the faucet 8 hours ago, blue rag, damp and limp, snoozing on the sink's dull silver rim like a sag-bellied boa. Where is my young self, smooth as a chestnut, fit to laugh off dumb despair? Where is my helmet and spear, giddy release, steel point passing through panic? Already asleep, that kid, road-rocked, unmoored from comic books, backseat eye closed on gridded outlet malls, northbound, past pine trees, still as velvet in an empty theater. So, the second poem had a really boring title. It was Telephone Poles. And Brock kindly said you should call this Utility, which is slightly less boring, which is what I went with. So, thank you, Brock. Utility. Poles point dully at the sky. Poles point dully at the sky, rigid, unable to relax into watercolor or panoramic photograph because of the power they manage, like executives in brown suits declining to set aside briefcases. You don't feel compelled to climb them as you might an apple tree because they reek of creosote, their splinters villainous. But you must applaud their fellowship when, arm in arm, they stand against prairie tornado or delta flood, reminders of interdependence, old, flat-footed Bolsheviks under lofty satellite chatter, under space and stars beyond stars, from ice-chipped dawn to warm summer darkness, asserting their humble logic on the landscape, like a silent infantry standing soot-wet in the rain, awaiting orders. Voices cross the delicate slack, crows settle down to nap. So I started a project this semester writing from the point of view of a character named Jack, who's most famous for climbing a beanstalk. And so I wrote a few poems, and this one's called Giant Boots. And you have to imagine, you probably know the story, right? He climbs a beanstalk and enters a castle. The castle is owned by a giant. So that's where this poem is set. Giant Boots. Then Jack comes to the edge of the bed. Below he sees boots, black, big as trucks, laces thick as climbing rope, dropped from his high school gym. He snaps pictures with his phone because this shit is just too crazy. No one will believe the boots' totemic gloom without proof. cool wind against Jack's throat as he tries to comprehend their bulk, so opposite this airy room, so anti-April, huffing through open windows. He feels flimsy as a daisy compared to the boots' thick tread and twin emptiness, like gaping mouths frozen mid-yawn, complete with lolling tongues. Rank odor. Wet earth and gutted swine wafting up from empty leather. Gentle reader, it's not the boots Jack dreads, but someone's huge theoretical feet for which the boots were built. And above the boots' hypothetical hands could peel his thighs. A hungry mind could engineer his tibia into a toothpick. Not the boots, but what the boots imply.
I love you, my poets. I'm Star. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you, Anna. I rely on you so much. Thank you, Jessie. You know, Jessie is doing a book. And so tonight, if you read for the open mic, you should say yes to letting Jessie contact you. She's our video person. And she is going to do this grand project called The People of Helicon West. There are quite a few of them. We oftentimes pack the house. So thank you for being here. We really like it. I'm going to read the sarcoma poems, just a few of the sarcoma poems. And I'll read exactly what's in the book in the order that it's in the book. And I hope some of you will buy the books. Harvest. On the kitchen counter, jars of pickles, dill with peppers, peppers with vegetables suspended in vinegar, sharp tang masking barely the smell of cod fillets broiled for dinner. Husband is yearning for longer life, his cancer returning. Wife lets him help with the canning. He stirs fat peppers, snapping and smoking in the pan, a slick of canola oil, skins pierced, juice burning his eyes. She cuts long strips of carrot, red bell peppers. She peels onions, he peels garlic. They stand side by side, industrious after dark, holding the news inside, each thought a texture of its own, the color of future. Whose life will be set aside first? His, with its bright, varied snap, or hers, its vinegared spark? Who's to say which will be preserved and which will be tossed, like the skins and gratings of all they've peeled back, brightest colors pressed into jars, shelved, shining? Join. He goes to Carver's Club. She sits down to read about medical marijuana and has a good cry. He has decided, again, there will be no chemo for him. I'm going for life quality, not quantity, he said. She'd been in a black hole all day since leaving him that morning at the kitchen table, head in his hands, morose. Went to work worried enough to make errors, transpose simple numbers, come near to tears at every situation. This can't go on, she thought, and came home. He'd reconciled himself while she'd been gone, but she is not relieved. Distress will be her mode from here on out. They'll go again to Cancer Town, where people undergoing treatment worse than the disease line up in waiting rooms to get the latest news. She doesn't want to join his club. He doesn't want to see her lose the things she needs, the things she loves, to be a caretaker for him. She doesn't see how things that mattered to her once could matter again without him. Next, dinner. By the way, thank you, Brock, for that title. Brock is great with titles. After the biopsy, after the surgeon takes 3 good samples, They wait in same day to make sure no air blows out the hole Dr. Ho made, sarcoma in the lung. Scans exposed the tumor, showed the liver nodules, all benign. Scans proved the pelvis clear, where 9 years earlier, misdiagnosed for a hernia, an egg-shaped tumor fell into the surgeon's hand. New scans reveal tumors on both lungs. More surgery, surely, if those grow from pin size. They wait to drive home, have dinner at the cancer center, blackened red snapper, strawberries on spinach, black coffee, thick frosted carrot cake. Hope. Double rainbow. Straight under its arch they drive on their way from the hospital, bow high above them, doubling down in columns of yellow, green, coral, purple. They reel their way through like dancers under a span of joined hands, half-wheel of karmic prophecy. Last poem, coupled. Mountains coalesce in fall sun, east color washed by west's brush, sunset's palette. Linked across the valley, mountains on each side play off each other like the couple at the kitchen table. All that passes over them reflected in furrow of brow, glaze of worry mirrored, his eyes to hers, his cancer eroding their peaks, her mask of hope uprising. They counter each other. The torn down is built up, the flattened lifted. Colors that gray in the fade of a western sun shine forth all coral and gold the next day. And then again, just before eventide, cuts and peaks and ridges blend to solid profile, a flat slate on which to draw tomorrow's possibility, pockets of leftover heat radiating rock to rock, stoic faces burnished bronze.
Let's clap some more. We're so glad to hear from all of you guys. We're going to move on to open mic now. And while our readers are reading, feel free to go back and buy a copy of their anthology, get it signed. You know
I'll go
now
back
how
there.
masterful they are.
I have change.
Start
Buy
has
books.
changed. So I'll grab the list and then we'll start the open mic portion.
Anna,
Yeah.
put Roland Gibson on the list.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Actually held it together pretty well.
The poem especially on like what children or
Yeah, I need to make a call to my good friends. Are you staying?
What's, is it 7 minutes, right? Limited to 7 minutes. Go over, we'll kindly clap you away from the mic. So first we'll hear from Lauren Smith, then Travis Williams, and then Matthew Allred.
I'm Lauren Smith. I think I'm significantly going to lower the standard here. Bathroom line. I'm going to die in this bathroom line. My bladder is going to explode, and the grizzly guy behind me is going to take a picture with his 1 billion megapixel superphone and post it on the internet where it will become a meme. But that must be better than actually entering this porta potty and fainting from the methane that will surely asphyxiate me and cause me to slump over into some unpleasant corner, because there are no pleasant corners in the porta potty. And when they open the door, after all the bladders of the people in line have exploded from waiting in this bathroom line, and after all of them have become memes because of the superphones taking pictures, they'll take a picture of me slumped over in a porta potty corner and post it on the internet with my mean brethren. And the only way I can console myself is by believing that hell is a porta potty and heaven a bidet, and that I am hopefully bound for good plumbing. I think this next poem requires a little explanation. Does everybody know the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, Greek mythology? Well, real quickly. Basically, Eurydice is married to Orpheus, Eurydice dies, Orpheus is really sad, and so he writes and sings a song which breaks the hearts of the gods. And so he's allowed to go into the underworld to get her, but he's not allowed to look at her until he gets back up to the land of the living. And when he gets up to the land of the living, he turns around, but Eurydice hasn't passed through the door, basically, to the land of the living, and so consequently, she loses him forever. My poem is significant, kind of destroys all the beauty of that Greek mythology, I guess, but all the same. Orpheus, hair rocker. You think when Orpheus sang to Eurydice, she screamed a high-pitched scream and showed him her breasts? And if so, did Orpheus pelvic thrust excitedly against a tree while strumming his lute in the woods? I wonder if when they married, did Orpheus hire a rap band out of Athens who filled everyone in how pimp Zeus really was? And I wonder if the bridesmaids of Eurydice screwed that rap group just because they were out of Athens. I wonder how much money Orpheus made off the single he wrote when Eurydice died, and I wonder if when he went to save her from the underworld, if Eurydice, because the song of Orpheus was all Hades and Persephone would play, thought this song makes me want to stay dead. And I wonder if Orpheus was singing that song on his way down into the underworld like some sort of rock opera in his open bosom shirt and leather pants, and if because the gods had commanded him not to look at Eurydice until he returned to the land of the living, he didn't notice that Eurydice had moved on to grunge and was now really into flannel and pretty much just wanted to stay dead. Which is why she resisted the whole way back up to the path to the land of the living, and why she gave Orpheus the finger when he turned around to see her at that last instant. And which is also probably why Orpheus then regretted the tattoo he had gotten over on his back as a surprise you're alive present. Well, which also probably spawned the idea for a great breakup song, which probably charted almost as well as his love song did. Then my last poem here is called This Is Me Being Outgoing. I think it was Heidi's pigtails that made me do it. Lend her my favorite book, My Best Friend is a Robot. But it could have been the fact that she could draw a boy with glasses, and I was jealous she got into the art club. And even though I swore she was a booger-ridden jerk for putting my book on the bookshelf in the classroom instead of giving it back to me next year, I asked a friend to ask her friend if she liked me, who told her friend who told my friend that she did, after which I moved away, because it's easy to be outgoing when you're moving away. Just like it was easy to punch Tom Watkins in the face for saying I smelled and wore the same shirt every day at the new school, which is where, unbeknownst to me and Tom Watkins, I had an informal fight trading in the form of a railroad worker in the 4th grade play where they told me to act like I was swinging a hammer, which is what I did when I clobbered his nose with my fist in the after-school showdown. When staring at girls became popular, my romantic life hit a peak. In fact, subtly dividing my attention between the middle school teachers and my dreamy romantic interest was a true talent of mine, as I was rarely called out for not paying attention, even though I never spoke up with right answers. Of course, high school came with new challenges. When asked if I didn't join the football team because I was afraid of being hit, I then had to refrain from punching somebody and launching into a rant about how much I disliked huddles, showering with other people, and being slapped on the ass by random guys for doing a good job. And when staring as an acceptable form of beauty appreciation ended, and Julie Beckett asked me if I wanted to have a sleepover, I panicked and told her I'd have to ask my parents. But it was all for the better anyway, since Julie got pregnant the next year by a jerk on the football team I never talked to, whose name I can't remember, and I joined the cross-country team where nobody else touched you at all, but where you could stare off into the distance as much as you wanted to, so long as there weren't trees or large boulders in your running. In college, there were basketball games to go to, which was pretty much like sitting next to someone who you don't know on a plane for 10 hours, except the seats are hard as shit, and you can't make the excuse that you're tired and want to cover your head in a blanket and go to sleep. Their teachers come in two varieties, those who simply talk to the entire class because they were outgoing, and those who called on each individual student because they knew the staring trip from middle school, which is endearing really, considering they themselves managed to survive 8 years alone in a library somewhere reading something no one else they know cares about, which is generally what I like to do in college. Of course, today I only panic a little bit when a new acquaintance asks me if I want to hang out. And even though I always decline party invitations because I don't want to stand by the drink area all night to avoid telling people I have to ask my parents, And even though I hate it when people scan every aisle of the grocery store in the opposite direction I do, causing our paths to crisscross more than is comfortable. And even though I have nightmares about a group of more than 10 people singing happy birthday to me at the same time, and even though I really hate any form of digital message that is sent to me that tells the sender of the message that I have read their message, and even though I panic when I see people whose names I've forgotten, I am sharing these words with you, which is me being outgoing.
Aloha. So my name's Travis. Have any of you guys read T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of Jane Alfred Prufrock?
Yeah.
Okay. If you haven't, have you ever watched a movie? I think I got everyone with the second one. So I don't have a title for this yet. Consumed in flame, confessing my shame, knowing I won't return to earth again, I will play the part in the love song of Jane Alfred Prufrock. Let us go then, you and I, into my rusty projections stretched away. Let us scream the muttering retreats of moving from streets into big cushy box buildings. Let's go into my yellow office of overwhelming thought. It leads into my blue foyer of wasting time, wondering if life could be as wonderful as movies. If mine were, I wouldn't, for I'm still practicing producing, can't capture breath yet. Women in rooms reek of fake sentiment, talking of thespians, never pedestrians. I presume on high sentence that everything is meaningless. Stop motion and reassess focus. Still frame thoughts for dreams feel light feel. No Fellini to film block your mind. Black wind, water, whited waves, the embellished take. And time yet for 100 indecisions to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. Lips chapped on set with 2 stunning actresses. Scared to speak for I'm a winless sack. Before my unwaxed preach can start, I fumble my peach. Scuttling across the floor to retrieve, the siren screams to be on scene. Rehearsed enchantment has my speech stopped. Prophets don't fumble eating peaches, thus making my arms way too short to box with you, God, or Jesus. He beseeches 12 hours a day, none at night, all at ray. When there is a midnight showing, I waste away light waiting for stars, thinking of how tramped I am by silence, the footman's cane. Will there be time to murder and create, and it will blur until he's back again? I can play the fool well, a comic stripped enough to be a cartoon. I am a fantastic groom, a fine-tuned loony. The well-dressed lie gets turned down in time. A little toaster is brave. The beast behaved. Wish girls talked of my flooded, unmade relays. Yet all they speak of is this orange ninja turtle, or of the Alfred who returned with super. I fucking fumble framing the birds with a camera. A psycho cycle to shake spilling smeary icebergs, slipping into and frozen thoughts. Am I Lazarus? I have wasted many second chances, spent around wishing 3 charms into chasing gals' glances that still say, ooh, you're it. Probably, if even only momentarily, please promise that you will sing about me. And abhor me into imagination after I've been etherized past euphoric. Will you come on forth to posthumously lift my lap into heavens as you bliss life away? Directing line by line, take by take, cut, cut, cut. This is not what I meant at all. This is not it at all. Let me conduct my own voice over a loud trained process, etching subtitled subconscious as the concept. Would it be hard to film a movie about your life? If I filmed a movie about my life, I would lie. I would grab a mic to stir a pipe, then tell you I'm not the type. I'm used to being cast as an extra far aside. I am not right. A fumbled peach, I tell you. Cut, cut, cut. That is exactly what I meant to say. So abolish that scene, take it away. For replay is to be spectacled by critical and the silhouetted, unaccredited phalanges flying everywhere, positive or negative, deciding what state is, crediting a creation for how much it makes you forget your own. Thumb high toward sky, I sigh, for I still measure nights by moons. Break up coffee in spoons, shake off Satanists by loons. Once deliberate baboons, now span swiftly into beams of scrambled, swiped spaces, pressing screens and snooze. Ignoring music, love, and food due to always changing the channel to go fast forward. Then the playing stops out of style, our trousers rolled with deft eyes we know. How to take helm of the universe and shake it of its will by the virtue of my head screaming at movie screens, wondering, what is my role? When do I act on dreams? Where is my direction? Why doesn't my cousin sleep? Whose eyes forgot to ask God ever my soul to keep? So if I shall die, Before I wake, the Lord will take a soul that aches so loud for human voices to wake it until it drowns. Thanks.
Hi, so I'm Matt Allred. I'm going to read a poem, and then I'm going to read some fiction, and then I'm going to sit down. Eventually I'll go home. This poem is called Even in the Winter. Evergreens grow forever. Break a needle in half and smell 10 years ago, 100,000 years ago. After destruction exceeds the comprehension of all remaining life, it will still smell like that. Yes, even in the winter. For my fiction, I'm going to read from this book. It's my book. It's a real book. And like many books, it can be purchased with human money. I don't know that it's worth it, but you can buy it. The e-book version is very, very cheap. So just punch my name in Amazon and it'll pop up. All you need to know for this little passage is that it takes place in the 25th century in Kansas. A organization called the Consada organization has kind of swept this area of America. And basically, they're not the best guys in the world. They just get together and talk about life and death. It's the only two things they think have any value at all. And one of their rites that they do is they will sometimes watch animals give birth, or they will ritualistically kill them in a circle. It's called a muerte campana. And this is at the beginning of a sort of different one. Dannenhall, the Consada chief, stands in the center of the circular podium, which will soon be carried off to clear the stage where so many animals have met life and death. This is a day of great power, he says. Today we have been given a great gift by one of the finest chapter fellows I have ever known. This is a man dedicated to Consada, to life and death. The crowd is full of energy, a certainty that clarity is about to descend upon them. None of them knows what is coming except Bill. He knows, and he is full of fear. Dannenhall says, "I will not stand before you and hypocritically deny my feelings. I know that weakness is inherent in us, but this weakness is not clear. It is not life, nor is it death. It is not Consada. So I will quiet the passions of my heart. I will accept what we are about to witness with joy. This should be no different than any muerte campana, for all life is life." Bill is afraid that he will be found out, that his true motivations, which he knows are not Consada, will be discovered. To everyone, Dannenhall says, "Please do not allow your own passions to pollute the clarity of life and death. This is an opportunity to prove to yourself and to me that you are Consada, as all things are. There is still exuberance, but a tension has wound itself through the group, like belts in an automobile engine never seen by these men. The festivities begin with the deaths of cats and Dannenhall's old horses. The men are lowered slowly into the landscape of mortality. Christopher glances over at Bill, believing him to be as excited as he was for whatever was about to happen. Bill pretends he does not notice, his shame growing. Christopher represents everything Bill wishes he could be. Marijuana smoke billows, but does not seem to infuse the air with its effect as entirely as usual. Bill does not feel high enough, though he is also smoking. He remembers the last horse finishes kicking and the body is dragged ceremoniously from the stage. A period of silence follows. The lights dim a little more, doing nothing but increasing the tension I mentioned a few paragraphs ago. The animal blood is then washed into a drain by men with high-powered hoses. The men begin to chatter quietly, excitedly with one another. They don't know what's coming, but they know Dannenhall lied. This is not just another muerte campana. Tonight is going to be special. The lights dim further, spreading Bill's fear to the other men in very small doses. He wants to watch, but wishes he didn't have to be there. What if she says something? Would his brother show up? Obviously none of that makes any sense. Out of context. He is sweating in the warm room. Outside the temperature is much, much lower.
A gurney is wheeled onto the stage, its occupant secreted behind hanging curtains. Bill knows it is her, but the other men do not yet know. Some will recognize her. Some have probably even been with her physically. Bill must remind himself of this. The curtains are pulled back by men in headdresses. The large hump which holds the baby is clearly visible in her nudity. If it actually were Bill's baby inside her, as Dannenhall believes, then Bill would be Cansada, truly. By the way, Bill's only son, still unnamed and about to turn 1, is with a neighbor woman whom Bill has paid. 3 beings encircle her, wearing not only headdresses but also the accompanying animal masks, 1 cat, 1 dog, 1 pig. Each holds a long pole with a very ornate blade at the end of it, ornate and viciously sharp. Little greenish flags wave from the point where the blade meets the staff. The symbolism is clear to everyone present. The pole is life, the blade is death, and the flag is marijuana, connecting the two. There is no sound loud enough to cover their footsteps, though they are wrapped in cloth dyed black. Bill notices how much more smoke there is now. Dannenhall must have turned the machines up. Bill thinks of the baskets of marijuana burning. The lights are carefully lowered further, allowing even more darkness to enter. Her head lolls, free of tautness by way of the drug she's taken. Her eyes, for no more than a second or two, rest on the face of Bill, but he cannot tell if she conceives of his presence. He knows that she loves him, despite everything she despises about him. How stupid she is. The thing that is least like life and death, the thing that is doubt, enters William in poisonous droplets. Perhaps he should stop them, proclaim his guilt to all, but he cannot. He does not want to be congratulated, as he soon will be. He does not deserve to be known as the man who gave his woman and his child for the clarity of Cansada. It continues, because it's a quote, but that's all I've got to
So we have to wrap up by 8:45, so we only have like 22 minutes. And there's 7 people still on the list. So if I could ask, maybe try to keep it a little shorter than 7 minutes, just so we can hear everybody read. I know that kind of stinks, but it would stink to not get to read if you've written your name down. So first we've got Marty Nikos, and then Tyson Steele, then Caitlin Erickson.
Hi. Apparently I'm Marty, so.
I couldn't read it, I'm sorry.
That's cool. I can't write, so you can't read it. All right, I brought 3 poems. I'm going to try to read them all. If I go over, just do something, throw something at me or something. Anyway, first one's called Clockwork Knight. I am the Clockwork Knight, once commissioned by kings, a victor of countless battles. Now my joints are rusted through. Your musket balls tear holes in my iron plating. They never even slow down. My usefulness has passed, withered away. I lay broken and alone in the corner in the past. My helmet is rusted shut from iron tears, buried under your newest dreams. The future doesn't hold a place for me. Nighttime has passed away. Daylight is breaking along my tattered seams. My key lies broken, forgotten, somewhere with the rats. So I have 2 more. Next one is called Uncle Bela. It's kind of a classic. Uncle Bela sits on a stump, his pocket knife expertly carving a big slab of bacon, one eye not wanting to give up his secrets, sightless. The other, he says, able to see a coin from 1,000 meters. Sadly, it sees only the past, remembering attributes an eagle would envy. His gnarled hands hold the knife between tree-root fingers, scarred from molding steel into locks. He made puppets for the children, hoping to keep them from knowing the horrors of where they were. Their parents only paying him in knowing glances, bowed heads, promises. Bela looks at me, his mouth turns to a smile, a gate coming off its hinges. Chuck Egyet Vion, he tells me, his large hand on my back, smile never wavering. I'll never know what he has gone through. He doesn't talk of the medals my mother will later give me for my birthday. I take the bread, now saturated with the grease from the dripping bacon. I take a bite and savor the flavor. No, the time. Last one, I'll try to make it quick. My manticore. My manticore sleeps, camouflaged on a pillow. His ancient bones stick out from under his skin. His terrorizing days are over, and long since forgotten, his melodious song barely heard. I like his square face, the comment is made. After all, she should know. He can't sit down all the way, and his legs are crooked, but he still manages. My manticore looks up, as if he knows we are talking about him. His face is more feline than human. His teeth, all 3 sets, are worn. His tail spines are worthless. They get shorter every year. They're worth something to me. His mane has fallen out and blown away, but he hasn't noticed. He is content to sit in my lap. This is the happiest he's been. At least I can give him that. I scratch under his chin, and he moves toward me, as if only remembering how to respond. Thank you.
I'm Tyson Steele. I was gonna do a big long poem that was like 8 minutes, but I decided to do something else. It's about my dog I went hiking with, not the one I had to shoot. I read a poem a while back. It's not this one. We went on a 50-mile hike. She had a little pack and little dog boots, and she left her dog boots behind, and by the end of the trail she had bloody paws and everything, licking them. And this is about her paws. It's called The Taste of Terrain. Collapsed in an aspen patch, my beagle licks the sores on her paws as if famished, as if struggling to tongue every flavor of the 50 miles we just marched. Tang of glacier lily, sun-dried pine, years-old forest fire soot, the woody moss clinging to stream beds, nameless tributaries of the Strawberry River, the lowland black marshy compost, dark swamp mud and deer scat between her teeth. In between her toes, does she note the hint of horse manure and road base, or the asphalt where we cross traffic on Highway 40? Does she swallow the oil, tire skids, and road rash, the cigarette butts and soda splatter of big gulps pitched out of trucks? Under her claws, is she surprised at the semen latex mix of the condom she stepped on? Can she taste civilization itself on the pads of her feet, all the petroleum, soda, and roadside sex that discharges from it? I wonder if she knows it's her blood she's licking as she licks bits of broken beer bottles bored into her paws, the metallic flavors of her veins seeping down her throat as glass shards slice her tongue.
How to get out. Okay.
Hey, there's stuff over here. Now you know that. Okay, I'm going to be reading some poetry. I assume you're tall. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to be reading some poetry. Frost. I always seem to love in the winter. It blooms with bodies curled under thin blankets and sagging mattresses, hands and legs stacked to cool warmth, thaw fingerprints and thighs, spread skin to skin. That's when we started, when the wind just started to blow cold and the sky grew black, hours before we walked to my car, shy, unsure of how our feet fell together, how we fit together. I don't know what to do if you're not cold, how I'll excuse the need to burrow against your body, slide a hand onto the warmth of your stomach. I need frigid breath and fingers outstretched, starved for warmth, to reach you. Okay, grenade, and this has an epigraph, and I'm terrible at reading epigraphs, so here we go. I fell in love the way you fall asleep, slowly and then all at once. I wish I fell slow, like honey, oozing from counter to floor, threads gleaming and sticky, or like a leaf, carried by wind to settle in packed grass or backyards. Instead, I fall like fireworks, shooting into the sky, and then a pop and a burst of sparks that crinkle and fade to embers. It's dangerous, my love, and scored by feet tapping and hand grasping. And at night, when you sleep with your back to me, a wash of white, I'll press my palm between your shoulder blades and fill dormant muscles. I'll trace lines between moles, create constellations, and weave their names in your hair. I'll listen to the whistle of air seeping between your teeth, and for a moment, maybe I'll slow, like honey. One day, you'll leave. You'll take the quiet with you. I'll shoot back into the sky and crumble. And last poem. Salt Lake City International Tattoo Convention, held across the street from the temple. I convinced myself to do it at the convention, where drunk on the buzz of tattoo guns, I find myself in front of a makeshift piercing booth. He and I fought last night, and I need something about me to change. My hair is already red and short and veined, and tattoos are too permanent. I'd end up with a four-leaf clover, or a black outlined heart and red filling, and I'd rather wait for watercolored flowers cascading down my shoulder, or book quotes scrawled onto my arms like notes, or neon birds taking flight from my ribcage. So I choose a second hole on my lobes. I don't wear earrings in the first hole, really. They're uneven. I'm embarrassed. But the piercing studs shimmer like dew on flowers, and I want to feel the pinch and the sore ache hours after it's done. When I was 13, I wanted a second piercing. I squirmed through the piercing gun, forcing a stud through my skin, like teeth pinching peach flesh, once already, and I became enamored with the look of metal and gems marching all the way up the conch shell shape of the ear. But the prophet said we couldn't. Our bodies were temples, and temples only had one hole per ear. Some of the girls I knew removed their second piercing, solemn, as though preparing for a funeral, and the holes left a scar that looked like crosshatches. Temples didn't have scars either, at least, not the ones I knew. They were pristine granite that gleamed against mud-colored mountains and red rock. I knew nothing of the old temples with pocked walls, crumbling foundations, torn veils. Those ones saw blood and death. Those ones lived. When the needle goes through, my ear flushes warm. I imagine cells screaming, and the sight burns, red spreading from the puncture point like a hum. My fist clench and my toes curl, but one suck breath and it's over. The sting stays for hours, throbbing like guilt. When he sees them, days later, he brushes hair behind my ears like turning pages in a book, and thumbs the lobes, examines the red. It's charming, he says. It suits you. They ache like a bruise.
Very sorry that I said your name. I did my best. Okay, and it so happens that I can't really read the next name either.
It's just I, it's okay.
No, it's not. It's not you. Ramirez?
Raul.
Raul. Okay, that's what I thought. Then I was so scared. And then it will be Aya, and then Zachary Gregory.
So I actually discovered my notebook from a long time ago, and I'm actually really short. I haven't written poetry in a long time, but while I was in my freshman year in college, my brother came up to me and was like, dude, you need to write a poem for me about World War II. I'm like, okay. Do you hear them? All the screams of agony, the distant sounds of explosion, all the fury, everything outside these gates where they scurry. I pray every day, every night, in every way. But do they hear me? Or where are they? All the tears I've shed for my people, all the sweat I've bled, and for what? Do you hear us as we follow in a sequel? 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 10 by 10, 50 by 50. They don't care. They line us up to burn. Children cry, parents scream, as we are all part of their horrid scheme. They stand there laughing with their coffee and cream, as we are being beaten against a tree. and the last of us start to bleed. My time draws near, and yet so far, I watch the others being pushed and smushed. We all stand naked, bruised and scarred. Do you hear us, troops? Can you see us? My time is up now. Time to hit the showers. And I can't decide whether I want to sing this next one.
Yeah, sing it.
This one is a part of a 3-part song that I wrote, and this is the last of it. It's called The Tyrant, and it was about my ex-girlfriend leaving me for another man. I mean, it's not like me, but it's, not, okay. Oh, I'm a mess now. My heart is racing again. Why can't I hide down from this? What'd you do to me? Well, everything is said is done. I don't know where to turn. Everything around so dark, like the forest of Mirkwood. I hate everything about you. I hate everything around me. I hate what I am and what I've become. I've threatened to kill my own friends. Don't you know what you've done? I'm a fucking tyrant now. I've looked at the sky and damned everything I believe. What the hell did you do to me? You're so perfect in every way. I hate your man for what he's done. I never want to meet Noah, talk to him after everything. Oh no, no, what you do to me? And then it just repeats, my little redhead goddess, why'd you leave me, over and over again.
Hi. So, my name is Aya Saqat, and I'm from Amman, Jordan, the real one. And that is important because of the context of my poems. So, the first one is called Dampened Prayer. As she rinsed the shampoo off of my body, my mother's rich classical Arabic demanded that Sharir, the evil version of me, slink down the drain. I would watch, giggling and enchanted, sometimes cheering along. My wicked counterpart shed like a snakeskin, invisible yet present amidst the discarded foam and dirty water, slowly washed away. My mother would then wrap me in my pink towel and declare me fresh and good. I was fresh and good. Yesterday, I stepped out of the shower, hair dripping onto glistening skin, forming a puddle below. A stray hair or two clung to my thigh, a different towel draped over my face. This time, green patterned with gray. My mother would approve. With eyes shut, I wondered if the water was not quite hot enough. Could my classical Arabic ever be as rich? Okay, this one had a really boring title that I then changed. So the new title is The Fruit That Has No Name. Little brother, it was spring then. It was spring then. It was spring. Then, a year or so ago, we are lounging on a cobbled couch with a Siamese cat between us, taking in the sunlight from the wall-wide window to the right. I look up from my roll of graduate school applications to you imploring me to put on some shoes and follow you outside to pick some cherries from the garden. Why can't you just do it yourself? You've always been a lover of fruit. Little brother, it is spring now. It is spring now. It is spring. Now, you don't speak much, but I hear you are taller. The last time we spoke, in English and on that same couch, you told me about your upcoming oral exam. You have my stutter, but I know you'll do just fine. I have. Little brother, it was spring then. It is spring now. I wonder if the cherry is as prolific as it was last year. Won't you go outside to the garden and find me? You can have your pick now. Cherries and apricots and fruit that has no name.
Hello. I'm going to read a poem. It's called Luck Up Your Doubt. Cram it behind metal doors of your mind. Keep your questioning tongue whirling behind your locked jaws. Do not fuel your apostasy with the combustion of all these contradictions. Forget these inconsistencies. Hammer belief through your chest where the barbs won't tear through the feeling that you should base these beliefs on. When you sat in church, your heart wept as someone described the crimson bloodshed for you. Getting louder, stretching your veins with a quickening pulse. How you wanted to screw your ribs on hinges, crack open your sternum, spilling the living contents, showing everyone your vulnerable conviction in the absurd. Loving, wrathful, giving, jealous, God filled with mercy and retribution, a God immortal that died nailed to a cross. Before the mechanics of reason turned the cogs of your mind in certain skepticism, before your lungs were pumped full of exhaust, and you awoke choking on the burning in your throat and the ash on your tongue. Thank you.
I should have just read this name in the last batch, but Ron is our last leader, so. Ron. All right. Yeah.
Hi, Ron. Oh, woman. I know I have my weaknesses, not the perfect man. I hope you meet me and treat me as I am. I hope I can give you all the love you deserve. I hope to be the husband that you've been glad to serve. Oh, woman, wherever you are, I'm waiting to be a bright star. The man I've seen of marriage isn't quite complete. I can put a product at a baby's little feet. If he forgets anything, then kids at my school, sure to love them, like dear jewels. Oh, woman, wherever you are, I'm waiting to be a bright star. And when kids will go, they've all moved away. I hope I'll let it go until our dying days. And once life was through, after all that we gave, hope our love continues. Beyond earthly graves. Woman, wherever you are, I'm waiting to be that star. Like the wind. I remember back in school, when I thought your hair looked like the wind. You were so fair. I thought your eyes were so beautiful. You were like the sun. Like you'd be my gal and be a lot of fun. Like the wind, you carried me away from going up to the present day. Like the wind, I've watched me there. While you up from year to year, and you've gone by, you fell for me. When the time was right, you got down on one knee, now we're married after all this time. So I've got the sun, saying, God, you're mine. Like the wind, you carry me away from going up to the present day. Like the wind, I'll always be there, while you up from year to year.
Just on time, and I really appreciate that. So if everyone can help put the chairs away, and once again, I'm sure if you want to grab a copy or buy a copy on your way out, you can. And thank you all so much. We'll see you on the 24th. the USC Library.